ज्ञानशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to our Saturday and Sunday morning series on Sri Harinam Chintamani. We have been discussing the most important chapter, chapter 3, on Namabhas. And if you remember the statement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that anyone who understands Namabhas will attain the mercy of the Lord and attain the Shuddha Nam. So last class we ended up our discussion till text 42, but let me summarize so that we are thorough with what all we have discussed. So as I was mentioning, right in text 4, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Namabhasa bhujile nama shuddha ho gaye. One who understands Namabhas will attain pure chanting of the holy name. Anayas Jima Nama Gune Tara Yabe. And by the mercy of the holy name, the soul will cross over the cycle of birth and death. So this is the glory of Namabhas. So we saw what is this Abhas. Abhas means the pure sun or the moon. You know, there is a dull image because of some obstruction. That is called as Abhas. And this obstruction can be because of the clouds or it can be because of the fog or the mist. So that is why there is this, Nama Abhas. So similarly, the Nama is pure like sun, but it is obstructed by impurities. And because of that, the effect is weak because of obstructions. But the Naam is pure. The sun is, fully potent, but we are covered. That is the problem. We are covered. And the brilliance of the sun is covered by the clouds. And these obstructions, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, because of fog and anarthas. The ignorance is compared to fog, the anarthas is compared to clouds. And what are these ignorances? Ignorance of the name, ignorance of Krishna, ignorance of the jiva, and ignorance of the goal. So because of these kind of ignorances, the name is covered by the fog. And anarthas, there is asatrishna, hridaya dhaurbalya, and aparad. And of course, we discussed from Bhajan Rahasya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions 4 types of anarthas. Asatrishna, hridaya dhaurbalya, aparad, and then tattva vibhrama. Tattva vibhrama means, not understanding who am I, not understanding who is the absolute Lord, and not understanding the sadhana and the sadhya, the goal of how to practice sadhana and how to attain the goal. So we saw that from one chart. But here Bhaktivinoda Thakur classifies them as 3 because the 4th one he is already taking care in Harinam Chintamani. In Harinam Chintamani, he is giving that Krishna is the supreme. He is also speaking about the sadhana, that is chanting of the holy names. He is speaking about the sadhya, that is to attain love of Godhead. So in that sense, the 4th one is taken care. But these anarthas which are compared to the clouds are asatrishna, desires. On earth we want to enjoy. In heaven we want to enjoy heavenly delights. We want to attain mystic siddhis. And then there is a desire for liberation. So although we might think at our level superficially, maybe we don't have desire for siddhi or liberation, but these anarthas are very, very, very deep rooted in the heart. And slowly, as we progress in spiritual life, we recognize, my goodness, these kind of anarthas I have. And hridaya dhaurbalya refers to the weakness of the heart, greed, envy, cheating, desiring fame, swapratishta. So these are the different weaknesses of the heart. And aparad is because of nam aparad, Vaishnava aparad, jiva aparad, and then seva aparad. So these are the 4 categories. So this is how he makes the understanding of these 2 types of clouds and fog, anarthas and ignorance. And although the sun is like, although the holy name is like the sun, fully potent, but we are covered by these anarthas, and that's why we cannot understand. And how the ignorance, which is compared to the fog, can be destroyed by Sambandha Gyan, and with that Sambandha Gyan practicing the Abhiday, and then we can take Shuddha Naam. So understanding our position, understanding that, Vishnu is the object of worship. So all that helps us to become free from, the ignorance. And then he speaks about the effects of Namabhas. The glories of Namabhas is unlimited. We become freedom from disease. There is, attainment of dharma, artha, kama, and ultimately moksha also. And Namabhas can also give faith. Also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned in Harinam Chintamani that Namabhas can Mukti Paryanta or Vaikuntha Paryanta, it was mentioned. That was the word which was used. And we discussed, Bhanu Maharaj mentions one can go up to the border of Vaikuntha planets by chanting. So I mentioned some examples also of some demons who are killed. They enter Vaikuntha, but they are merged in Brahmasukh. So that is their position. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about the 4 types of Namabhas: Sanket, Parihasya, Stobha, and Hela. And even the 6th canto also speaks about these 4 types. And within these 4 types, within Sanket, there are these 2 types. Name of Vishnu intends to refer someone else and his material. He knows that it is this Narayan is the name of Vishnu, but he intends to refer to someone else. So Ajamil had knowledge that Narayan is the Narayan name of the Lord of Vaikunta, but he called out Narayan not addressing him, but addressing always his son. And another person is not at all aware that Narayan or Vishnu is the Lord of Vaikunta. So these are the two divisions in Sanket, what we saw. Now let me go back to now the slides or Harinam Chintamani, and this is where our discussion was. Chaturvida namabas ei matrajani sanketa o parihas stoba helamani. I know 4 kinds of namabas: sanket, parihas, stoba, hela. Vishnu lakshakari jada buddhi namaloy, anya lakshakari Vishnu nama ucharaya. One kind of sanket namabas is when the chanter, although aware that he speaks the name of Lord Vishnu, intends that it refers to someone else, to something material. And the example of this is Ajamil. The other kind is when the chanter is not aware of the name of Lord Vishnu, but he speaks it anyway. And this is the Yavanas who take the name Haram, Haram. Sanketa dvivida hoy namabas Ajamil Shakshitara Shastrira Prakash. In this way, there are these 2 types of Sanket Namabas. The scriptures give scriptures give Ajamil as an example of the first kind. So the first kind who knew, he was aware that this Narayan is the name of the Lord of Vaikunta, but he always indicated to his son, Yavana sakala mukta hobe anayase harama harama boli kahe namabas. So just by saying haram haram, the Yavanas are taking namabas and they will attain liberation. Even though in Sanket Namabas, the chanter refers to someone or something other than the Lord, the power of the holy name is not lost. So this is the potency of Sanket Namabas, both the types of Sanket Namabas. Now, as I had mentioned, we will be discussing now from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the mention of these 2 types of Namabhas by Haridas Thakur to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked how these Yavanas can be delivered. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila, chapter 33, verse 52. हरिदास कहे प्रभु चिंता न करिया यवनेर संसार देखी दुख न भाविया. Don't be worried, chinta na kariya. Yavanera, how they are suffering in this material world, in the hellish planets. Dekhi dukh, don't see this misery. That means Haridas Thakur is relieving the headache of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this taking up headache, is service, Prabhupada says. My dear Lord, do not be in anxiety. Haridas Thakur is giving assurance to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Don't be in anxiety. This is service, Prabhupada says. So service means to take headache, to preach and connect people to the holy name. And for that, we have to take a lot of trouble. And this kind of headache is real service, Prabhupada is explaining. Now, Haridas Thakur says, Yavana sakalara mukti hobe anayase harama harama boli kahe nama bhase. So all the Yavanas, sakala, mukti hobe anayas, very easily they'll attain mukti, my dear Lord. Why? Harama harama boli kahe nama bhas. Because they say haram haram out of contempt, not knowing the glory of the holy name, and they are actually chanting namabhas. Mahaprema bhakta kahe harama harama yavanara bhaga dekha loise nam. So the pure devotees, Mahaprema bhakta kahe ha Ram, or Hey Govinda, Hey Yadava, Hey Krishna, as Draupadi called out, Hey Govinda, in that assembly. So she is addressing, or anyone is addressing out of love, Ha Rama. A devotee in advanced ecstatic love exclaims, Oh my Lord Ramchandra, oh my Lord Ramchandra. But the Yavanas chant Haram Haram, just see the good fortune. So, what the pure devotees out of pure love are addressing their Lord, the same benefit the Yavanas are getting. So, this is the fortune of the Yavanas. Prabhupada in the purport explains, a child touches fire, the fire will burn. An elder man touches fire, the fire will burn. So both are chanting and the same effect both are getting, the Premi Bhaktas as well as the Yavanas. So this is the glory. Yadyapi anya sanketa hoy, Yadyapi anya sanketa anya hoya namabas, tatapi namera teja na hoy vinash. So here Haridas Thakur, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has mentioned, even though in Sanket Namabas the chanter refers to something or something else other than the Lord, the power of the holy name is not lost. So this is the reference here in Chaitanya Charitamrita for this. Yadyapi anya sanketa anya hoya namabas, tatapi namera teja na hoya vinash. The chanting of the holy names to indicate something other than the Lord is an instance of namabas. Even when the holy name is chanted in this way, its transcendental power is not destroyed. And here, Kaviraj Goswami gives the example from the Narsimha Puran. Dam Shri Dam Shrahatom Lecha Harameti Puna Puna Uktvapi Muktimapnoti Kim Puna Shraddaya Granan. So here the last word is very, very important for us to understand. So this Mlecha, he was being killed by the tusk of a boar, and he cried out in distress again and again, Haram, Haram. One is he was addressing out of contempt, out of great envy or distress, and it was attacking him. And these words, Haram, Haram, were not addressing the Lord Ram also. But yet, he attained mukti, because by namabas, one can attain mukti. So what to speak of those who take out of faith? That means this, Mlecha did not have faith in the chanting of Haram, and yet he attained liberation. So here now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to go more deeper into these different types of namabas chanting, which I will be coming very quickly, but I want to discuss these verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is the first example he gives. The second example, he says, Ajamila putra bolya bali narayan Vishnuduta asi chadiya tahara bandhan. Ajamil was a great sinner during his life, but at the time of death, he accidentally called his youngest son, whose name was Narayan, and the attendants of Vishnu came to relieve him from the bonds of Yamraj, the superintendent of death. So the second example Haridas Thakur is giving to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is about Ajamil. Now, next verse. Ramadui akshara iha nahi vyavahita premavacha ha shabda taha bhushita. So this Rama akshar, there are two akshars. That's why in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when we are chanting, we should be very careful. We should chant the full syllables. There are 16 words and 32 syllables in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Not Hare Ram, Hare Ram. We cannot chant 1.5 syllable. Rama it is. So Ha Rama, Rama Dui Akshar, and there is no Vyavahita, there is no separation. And we have studied quite in detail in the previous chapter the two types of Vyavahita, separating the holy name from the Lord, that is Aparad. And there is Varna Vyavahita and Tattva Vyavahita, which we elaborately discussed. And with respect to that, also he will give a reference. And this verse also we saw from the Padma Puran. But in the next verse, he says, Namera Akshara Sabara Eita Swabhav Vyavahita Hoila Nachadit Apana Prabhav. Although they are separated, the names, the Aksharas, but still they don't give up their influence, Prabhav. And there we saw this verse, and we quoted this when we discussed the Varna Vyavadhan. In the last class, if you remember, in the second chapter, we quoted this verse itself, and we saw Halam Riktva, these examples, Halam Riktva, Riktam, sorry, Ha and Ri, he gets the benefit of chanting holy name. So my question now is to all of you, the first example Haridas Thakur is giving of Namabhas of the Yavana chanting, and he gives the quotation, or Kaviraj Goswami gives the quotation from Narsimha Puran. So what is, there are these two types of Sanket. So which is the Yavana chanting, which type of Sanket it refers to? Everyone can type in their chat box. I hope the question is clear. Haridas Thakur, who is giving the example of the Yavana chanting, Namabhas, it is what type of chanting, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained? Anyone would like to answer? You can raise your hands also. There is one answer which has come, Varna Vyavadhan Sanket. No, there is no Varna Vyavadhan there. It is Sanket. Now within Sanket, it is which category also, I want to know. Anyone would like to answer can raise also their hand. Anyone in the online here? Okay, so now let me come to the PowerPoint and show you all. Although I have discussed this, but I want to make it clear. Sorry. So here, yeah, there is one more. Out of contempt. No, it's not out of contempt. It is Sanket. Firstly, we have to understand it is Sanket. Among the four types of Namabhas, Sanket, Parihasya, Stoba, and Hela, we have been discussing Sanket. And within Sanket, there is these two examples, two divisions we saw, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining. And he knows, Ajamil knows that this Narayan is the name of Narayan who stays in Vaikuntha, but he intended to refer to his son. So that is the first type of Sanket. That is what quotation but Haridas Thakur gave. The Yavanas, what example he gave, they are not aware that they are taking the name of Vishnu. Vishnu is the Lord of Vaikuntha. And they might also, there can be contempt also in it, and there is indicating, he's indicating it to the boar and not to Vishnu. So that is why the second example of the Yavanas is the second type of Sanket, Namabhas. So this is how we should understand. There's a clear distinction between these two types, and that is why I took it up. Now, Haridas Thakur, after explaining these two examples of Ajamil and the Yavana, then he explains the glories which Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also explained. Namabhasa hoite hoy sarva papashaya. All the papa gets destroyed. And then he gives a reference, one quotation from the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And Namabhasya haite hoy samsara rashaya. Namabhas gives, the faint light of the holy name eradicates all the sinful reactions. These glories we have discussed. And for this, he gives the example of Ajamil. Ajamil, by chanting that Namabhas, Sanket, referring to his son, became free from all sinful reactions. So this is the second reference he goes. नामाभास्य मुक्ति होय सर्व शास्त्र देखी श्री भागवते ताते ajamila shakshi. So namabhas, now the third effect he's explaining is not only you become free from sinful actions, you can get liberation. Sarva shastra dekhi, all the shastras speak. And in the Bhagavad, Ajamil is the Sakshi. Ajamil became liberated there by chanting Namabhas. But later on, when he heard the conversation between the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamdutas, he got Sambandh Gyan, and then he took up to the chanting, indicating directly Vishnu with faith, and ultimately took Shuddhanam and attained pure love of Godhead and attained liberation. So this is how the only discussion is there up in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is about the Sanket Namabhas, the two examples of Ajamil and the Yavana. Now let us come to the other Parihasya. So Parihasya in one verse, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, Parihasya Krishna Nam ye jana kare jarasandha samase se samsare tare. When one says the holy name as a joke, that is Parihasya Namabhas. By this kind of Namabhas, persons like Jarasandha became delivered from the world of birth and death. So Jarasandha, that Krishna, I can easily defeat him, man. I can easily defeat. So this kind of, chanting by Jarasandha out of joke, oh Krishna, he runs away from the battlefield. Majak mein, what do you say, na? In Hindi. So this kind of chanting also what is called as Parihasya, joking. Once I was going to a college for a program or to take permission for some program, and while passing, seeing me, some of the students who were sitting there, both boys and girls, started chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and they were laughing. So they were laughing actually to make joke, but ultimately they were taking the holy name. One day they will develop some faith and come in association of devotees, and they might take up to the Krishna conscious process. So this is the potency of even Parihasya. And then Stova, one example or one shloka, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. Anya bhangi chaitya sama kare namabhas stova matra hoya tabu nashe bhava prakapash. By chanting Namabhas in mock, the holy name, persons like Shishupal cut the noose of birth and death. So Shishupal was mocking Krishna. This Krishna, you want to worship him? Agra Pursha, you want to offer it to him? We don't know his varna also, whether he's a Vaishya or he's a Kshatriya. In Vrindavan, he acted as a Vaishya. Now he's acting as a Kshatriya. And there are great rishis here who are the topmost brahmanas. And you want to offer this Agra Puja? So he was mocking Krishna there. And he was taking the name of Krishna. And by that, what happened? He cut the news of birth and death. So this is the third example, or the third type of Namabhas. Now the Hela Namabhas. Inattention and contempt. Mananaya deha ara avagya bhavete Krishna Rama bole Hela Namabhasa tate. When one chants the holy names of Krishna and Rama inattentively or in contempt, it is called as Hela Namabhas. Ei saba namabhasya mlecha ganatare vishaya alasa jana ei patadhare. Now, everyone among ourselves, especially devotees, we might be wondering, Are, This Yavana just took haram, haram, and that too it is out of Sanket and Hela, both, in fact, in one sense, and he attained liberation. Ajamil took once the holy name Narayan, became free from all sinful reactions, and later on also attained back to Godhead. He went to the spiritual world. But especially the Yavana's example, by chanting these kind of namabhas, the mlechas become delivered. The materialist and the spiritual lazy people follow this path. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning that these kind of names which are taken, Sanket or Stoba or Hela or Parihas, is not meant for devotees. So here comes the secret that once somebody out of Sanket says haram, haram, just at the time of leaving the body, by that name, he attains liberation. So that is maximum what you can get liberation. But devotees enter into the spiritual world in relationship with Krishna. For them, this is not meant. And that is why it is not recommended. This type of chanting is not for us. It is for the materialist and the spiritually lazy people. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to come to a very, very important discussion from text 47 to 49. And please hear this attentively and try to understand this subject now here. Text 47. Shraddha kari kare nama anartha sahita. Shraddha nama hoya se tumara vihita. If one chants with faith, Shraddha kare nama, but also with anarthas, anartha sahita, this chanting is called Shraddha Nama Bhas. Now, here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making a distinction between that there are different kinds of Nama Bhas. Let us go to text 48 and 49, and then I will show the chart. And if you have any questions, we will take it up. Sanketadi avagya paryanta bhavadhari namakare helaya a shraddha parihari. The kinds of namabhas that begin with sanket and end with hela, that is sanketa, parihasya, stoba and hela, are chanting without faith. So they are called as what? Chanting without faith. They are called as ashraddha namabhas. Namabhasya avadi se hela nama hoy tahate o mukti labe papa hoy she. By chanting namabhas with contempt, one destroys sins and attain liberation. So by chanting this ashraddha namabhas, what is the benefit? We can destroy sins and attain liberation. So there is a footnote here. Let us see the footnote and then I'll show you the slides. By audibly chanting the holy name with contempt, one attains auspicious results up to liberation. However, by chanting the holy name with faith, one attains an auspicious result that chanting with contempt has no power to give. When one chants with faith and with knowledge of his relationship with the Lord Krishna, the result of this chanting is love for Krishna arises. When one chants namabhas with faith, anarthas quickly flee. So here now in text 47 to 49, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has made a very important explanation that there are these divisions in namabhas. So there is something called as ashraddha namabhas and there is shraddha namabhas. So the ashraddha namabhas has these 4 divisions. And within this Sanket also we saw these 2 subdivisions also. And by ashraddha namabhas, they don't have faith in their chanting. Ajamal did not have faith. He thought he's calling his son. That was Sanket. But that destroyed all his sins. That Yavana indicated to the boar. That was the second type of Sanket he chanted. And he attained liberation. So this ashraddha namabhas awards us liberation, up to destroying all the sins and up to liberation. And all the four examples we saw, Parihasya, Stoba, and Hela, how, everyone attained liberation. But in this Namabhas, there is the Shraddha Namabhas and the Ashraddha Namabhas. Now, we devotees are taking Shraddha Namabhas. We have faith. We have faith that we are, what name we are taking is the Lord of Vaikuntha or Krishna or Golok Vrindavans. Vrindavan, the Lord of Vrindavan's name we are taking. So we fall in this category, Shraddha Namabhas. So now we need to understand, we are taking this chanting with faith that I am addressing it to Krishna, but there are anarthas also. So how now anarthas can be gone so that with this Shraddha Namabhas, we can take Shuddha Nam. So here now the discussion is very, very interesting. And I hope this is clear now between Ashraddha Namabhas and Shraddha Namabhas. Anyone has any questions regarding what we discussed up till now? About the Shraddha Namabhas and the Ashraddha Namabhas, which has these four divisions in Ashraddha Namabhas? Anyone has any questions? There are 3 hands up. Let me first take the questions. Prem. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. So I couldn't follow the example on Stobha. On Hela it came as contempt, but in Stobha couldn't follow. Parihasa was joke, but Stobha I couldn't follow an example.
Stoba is mockery, making mock. It is a little slight different from parihas. Stoba is just mocking, hey, that Krishna.
So that Shishupal example is Stobha, Babu.
Shishupal is that example. This Krishna, we don't know his Varna also, and you want to, do the Agar Puja, give it a Agar Puja to him. So mocking Krishna, making fun of Krishna. But of course, there is slight difference. That's it. Parihas is you just laughingly, you take the holy name. So that is parihasya. So that is the difference between Stoba and Helena. Stoba and parihasya. Birendra Yadav Prabhuji has one question. You have to speak a little loudly, please, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, my question is, we are chanting with faith, but generally it falls in inattentive chanting. So it is said that inattentive chanting is namaprad. So how we are falling in Shraddha Namabhas?
Very, very nice question. I was expecting this question. So we are chanting Shraddha Namabhas, but sometimes we commit offenses to the holy name. And in the holy name, when we commit offenses, especially when we don't chant, having this knowledge that the holy name is not different from Krishna and we are not attentive, then we actually fall in Namaprad stage. So here, I will show you now in the slide to make it clear. It is going to come up, but since you have asked this question, I will make it clear here. So actually, there are these 3 stages of chanting. We somehow initially when we come in touch with Krishna consciousness, we might have taken to Ashraddha Namabhas chanting. And when we come and start hearing Sambandha Gyan about the holy name, or we come in association of devotees, attend lectures, and slowly our faith begins to arise. So we might initially have taken Ashraddha Namabhas also, or we might have taken Shraddha Namabhas, by which we came in the association of devotees. But from this Namabhas stage, we come down to Namaprad stage of chanting. And from Namaprad stage chanting, we should come to Shraddha Namabhas chanting. And now further on, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain that within Shraddha Namabhas, there are two divisions. We will go to that a little later, today or tomorrow. Very important that is to understand. There is slight subtle difference. There are slight subtle divisions in Shraddha Namabhas also. So we initially took Namabhas, did Namabhas chanting, either Ashraddha or Shraddha. And from Shraddha Namabhas, we come down to Namaprad stage of chanting. And this Namaprad stage of chanting goes for a long period. As long as we don't, avoid, inattentive chanting. Not, we separate Krishna from his holy name, till then we are doing Namaprad chanting. And moment we have this knowledge and we fully, with full attention, start chanting, we straight away from Namaprad come to Shraddha Namabhas chanting. And we are supposed to, from Namaprad, go to Shraddha Namabhas chanting. And from Shraddha Namabhas chanting, we are supposed to go to Shuddha Nam chanting. Whereas the Yavanas or anyone else, the examples given, they directly take up to Ashraddha Namabhas chanting. And they directly attain liberation. The materialist or the lazy people. So they are, you might think that they are more fortunate. I'm going through so many years of chanting, but ultimately because they are only attain liberation. But we, by taking to Shraddha Namabhas, and first we go through this Namaprad stage and then, go through the Shraddha Namabhas stage, ultimately we'll be able to take to Shuddha Nam and attain love of Godhead. So that is important for us to understand. Ultimately, we'll be able to take Shuddha Nam. I hope, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji, it is clear to you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There is one more question by Vikram Prabhuji. Yes, Vikram Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Dandu from Prabhuji. Am I audible?
Yeah.
My question was related to Virendra Prabhuji only, Prabhuji. My question was like, Yavanas taking the name of Hari was looking like a Nam Aprad to me because it was ignorant and it was also it was with Anartha. But Haridas Thakur is calling as a Nam Abbas. Nam Abbas is which is higher stage. So it was very confusing that how can Yavanas with ignorance they are taking Nam Abbas and we devotees whom we are practicing comes under Nam Aprad.
Yes, everyone has this question. Yes. So the Yavanas taking the holy name, the Yavanas taking the holy name is Ashraddha Namabhas, and in that discussion, between Haridas Thakur and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, a lot detail is not given. Of course, the discussion has been quite detailed, what happened 500 years back, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is now giving. So Namabhasya Mukti Hoila. That Namabhas, what the Yavanas chanted, was Ashraddha Namabhas. So even Ashraddha Namabhas gives liberation and freedom from all sinful reactions. Sarva Papa Shaya, it is mentioned. And Mukti, Pabe Anayas, Yavanas. So that is Ashraddha Namabhas. This is the potency of Ashraddha Namabhas. Then what will be the potency of Shraddha Namabhas? Because if you take up Shraddha Namabhas, and then you will be coming to Shuddha Nam, which will award you love of Godhead. So we have faith. We are taking Krishna's name. We know that it is Krishna and the Lord of Gokul. So this kind of chanting with faith, but with aparads also, is called as Shraddha Namabhas. But when we chant separating Krishna's from his holy name, that means when we chant inattentively, then we fall in the category of Namaprad. So that is the difference. So that is why initially, if you have all observed, our faith just awakened in Krishna consciousness. And we felt as though we have become pure devotees. You know, Krishna, I have attained Krishna in my life. At that time, our initial chanting was somewhere in the Shraddha Namabhas. But later on, we come down to the level of Namaprad. We become lazy, and ultimately there are unlimited apradhs also in the heart. You know, so slowly that enthusiasm which is there, initial enthusiasm which we feel in spiritual life, it comes down because the heart is not pure and these apradhas are there. And then we don't take up that chanting as seriously as we took up in our initial days. So that is why so much Sambandh Gyan knowledge is required. And we avoid these namaprads so that we can quickly come to Shraddha Namabha stage. And from Shraddha Namabha stage, all the anarthas will be destroyed, all the ignorance will be destroyed, and the heart will become pure. And from that pure heart, we can take Shuddhanam and attain the goal of life. So this is how our journey goes. Initially, we might have chanted Shraddha Namabhas and came in touch with devotees and attained Shraddha Namabhas. From Shraddha Namabhas, we go to Namaprad stage. From Namaprad stage, we have to come to Shraddha Namabhas and then go to Shuddha Nam. Is it okay? Clear, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions anyone has? This is very important for us to understand now. Now the discussion is going to go more deeper now, because within Shraddha Namabhas there are these two divisions. There is one question. So what we learn is that the holy name is so pure that no matter how it is told is only has a positive effect, though we need to persevere to progress to offenselessness. Yes, the holy name is always like the sun, fully radiant, fully pure. But the sadhaka might be covered with ignorance and apradhs or anarthas. And it is only these which are blocking us. And when we get this proper Sambandh Gyan, and when we attentively take up the holy name, not committing Namaprad, especially Namaprad, then we can realize the potency of the holy name. So that is how we should understand. Yes, you're correct about it. So now let's go to the next text in Harinam Chintamani. We now know that there are these two divisions, Shraddha Namabhas and Ashraddha Namabhas. Now, text 50 to 52. Namabhas chanting of the holy name destroys anarthas and gives prema. Now here Namabhas chanting means which type of Namabhas chanting? Everyone can answer in the chat box. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning Namabhas chanting of the holy name destroys anarthas and gives prema, which type of Namabhas chanting Bhaktivinoda Thakur is referring? Everyone can type in the chat box. Which type of chanting? Yes, it is Shraddha Namabhas. Yes. Everyone is very clear. Shraddha Namabhas. Excellent, excellent. Krishna Prema Chadi Saba Namabhase Paya Namabhase Puna Shuddha Namahoyaya. By Namabhas chanting, one can obtain everything except pure love. From Namabhas, one comes to the stage of pure chanting. Now he is speaking about Shraddha Namabhas. Even Ashraddha Namabhas also can give everything except pure love. But here now, because he has already introduced this topic of Shraddha Namabhas and Ashraddha Namabhas, for us it refers to Shraddha Namabhas. Anartha vigate abe Shuddha Nama hoy Krishna prema tabe tara hoy vai nishchay. When the anarthas have fled, pure chanting becomes manifest. Then pure love for Lord Krishna, Krishna Prem becomes manifest. So when by this Shraddha Namabhas the anarthas have gone, then it is like the clouds are removed, the fog is gone, and you can experience the pure radiant effects of the sun. The sun is shining and you're able to feel the effect on you. The sunshine, you are able to experience the sunshine. So when the anarthas are completely gone, pure chanting automatically manifest. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Kabu Sadhyanai, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta, Koraya Udai. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. The Krishna Prem is there within our heart. Kabu Sadhyanai, by no external means it can be awakened. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta. When the Chitta becomes pure by Shravanadi, now those who are doing Shravan means they have faith. That is Shraddha Namabhas then. So even for your kind information, and let me make it a point very, very clear. This is, take it in a positive spirit. Even if you are hearing a lecture in the temple, and if you're inattentive, you're committing offense. If you're hearing the lecture now online, and you're not attentive, you're attentive to something else, you're committing offense. If you're hearing whoever your spiritual master is, you're hearing from a recorder or MP3 player. And if you're not attentive while hearing, you're not putting your full attention while hearing, you're committing an offense. So please don't think that only while chanting, I will, focus all my attention in my chanting and I will not do Namaprad. What you're doing all day, if you're inattentive while hearing from the recorder, if you're inattentive while hearing, the class in the temple or the online class now, you're committing aparadh. And these are also accumulating. And these habits, what you're doing, off track, you can say, when you actually are into chanting, these habits will, have influence there. That is why I very much, love and like His Holiness Radha Govind Maharaj's statement. He's not in favor of, hearing recorded lectures, or whether it is YouTube or it is, downloading the MP3 lectures, or he says you can hear them if you are hearing in such a spirit that your spiritual master is sitting in front of you and giving the lecture. If he's sitting in front of you, you should have this kind of a mood while hearing a recorded lecture. Then you can hear. With that attention, if you hear, then it is beneficial. Otherwise, it is always advised that as much as possible, we should hear live lectures. Today, this whole phenomena of hearing lectures on YouTube and recorded lectures, and one devotee who came in touch with Krishna consciousness, attended Bhagavad Gita course. A sannyasi was giving lecture in the temple. I said, why don't you come today? A sannyasi is giving lecture. No, I will hear it live on the YouTube. So now our preferences have become more, easy, why to take the trouble to go all the way to the temple and sit in front and hear the lecture. The device is there. So this is a sign of laziness first. And, the person is there on the YouTube, you're hearing him, but his consciousness you cannot feel because it is coming from a device. The voice is coming from a device. But the sannyasi who's giving the lecture in the temple, when you're sitting in front of him, you can feel his consciousness. There's a conscious person who is speaking there. So there is difference in one sense. And that is why we should be very, very careful today in this age of technology. I usually avoid doing other activities and hearing recorded lectures. If I want to hear recorded lectures, I sit on a table, play the player, take my notes. And I saw one devotee somewhere in Goa do this, and I was very impressed. So this is very important. I usually, if I am not able to give full attention, I usually hear bhajans, because bhajan doesn't require that attention. You can, as the bhajans are being sung, you can also sing them. So, but lecture, every word has to be heard. If you miss one word, then you cannot understand the thought flow, what is going on. So this kind of hearing is actually, offensive hearing. And this will, this habit will reflect in your chanting also, and you will do offensive chanting. So, dear devotees, this is a very important point, and that's why I am mentioning it here. So the anarthas will go away and pure name will come. Nama basya shakshat say prema di tenare, nama hoya prema deya vidhi anusare. Nama basya has no power to give pure love directly. Only proper chanting by following the rules of chanting gives pure love. So all these rules of proper chanting, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning now. That these rules are the best rules to be followed. Now, the questions which were asked, if we are chanting Shraddha Namabhas, but but we are now at the stage of Namaprad. So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is coming to the difference between Namabhas and offensive chanting. So text 53 to 55. Ataiva Namaprad Parihari Namabhasa Kare A Taranati Kari. I offer my respectful obeisance to anyone who, avoiding the offenses to the holy name, performs Namabhas chanting of the holy name. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is offering respectful obeisances to anyone who is chanting Namabhas. Here it is again Shraddha Namabhas for devotees, definitely. And if you can avoid the aparads, the 10 aparads, and especially the root of all aparads is inattentive chanting. We separate, the tattva that the holy name is not different from Krishna. Krishna is come to you. Krishna is there in front of you when you are chanting. When you don't have this kind of knowledge and you even a little second, do you take your attention from Krishna to something else, you are committing aparadh, namaparad. So this is, to be carefully understood, and it has to be worked out. The moment you start working on it, you will immediately come to the Shraddha Namabhas chanting. And if you do this Shraddha Namabhas chanting, immediately all the sins will be destroyed, the heart will become pure, and you will be able to take Shuddhanam. So the journey from Shraddha Namabhas to Shuddhanam is a short journey. But the journey from Namaprad to Namabhas, here Shraddha Namabhas, is a long, long, long journey. And it is a long journey. So we have to, with this knowledge, understand this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is offering his obeisances one who performs Namabhas. Karma jnana hoite ananta shreshtatara bali Namabhase jani oho sarveshwara. O Supreme Lord, O Sarveshwar, I declare that Namabhas chanting is endlessly better than karma or jnana. So Namabhas chanting is much, much better than karma and jnana, both the Shraddha and Ashraddha Namabhas, because by Ashraddha Namabhas also one attains liberation. By karma and jnana, it is a multi-lifetime process. What a potency and glory is there in Ashraddha Namabhas. What to speak of Shraddha Namabhas. Rati Mula Shraddha Yadi Shuddha Bhave Hai Tabe E Vishuddha Nama Hobe Udhai. If by Namabhas chanting one attains faith, which is the root of attraction for Lord Krishna, then the chanter will become purified. Pure chanting of the holy name will manifest before him. So Rati Mula Shraddha, have faith that the holy name is not different from Krishna. And with this Shraddha chant, then you can chant Shraddha Namabhas. And then what will happen? Shuddha Bhav will come. And then Vishuddha Nam Hoy Uday, then pure name will happen. So this is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur has discussed about Namaprad and Namabhas. Now the next discussion which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to have is about, there are two kinds of light in Namabhas, Chaya and Pratibimb. Now within Shraddha Namabhas, there is Chaya Namabhas and Pratibimb Namabhas. Now here he had mentioned Shraddha, if you remember. Shraddha, Rati Mool Shraddha. So this faith is Abhas. Abhas means it is faint. And this faith, which is faint, can be of two kinds, Chaya and Pratibimba. So now we have come to a little more deeper discussion. Let us go into now, I think there are these two types of Namabhas, without faith, but with offenses, which we discussed. Ajamil chanted that, but later on he attained faith with that discussion. So from that Ashraddha Namabhas of Ajamil's chanting, he got Sambandh Gyan and he chanted with that Sambandh Gyan, from Namaprad stage, he came to Shraddha Namabhas stage, and then he went to Shuddhanam. The devotees here in the Nam Sankirtan have faith. Their Namabhas is with faith chanting. But there are anarthas. So we saw this chart also now, that this Namabhas has these two divisions, Shraddha and Ashraddha Namabhas. Now further, within the Shraddha Abhas, there is Chaya and Pratibimba. So let us now go to this verse. Okay, text 56 and 57 will take up and then end up the discussion. Tomorrow again, we will be going more detail into Shraddha Namabhas, which has these two divisions. But now here I'm just introducing. Abhas duida hai pratibimba chaya, Shraddha abhas dui prakar, sabatava maya. Abhas. Now abhas exactly we had defined in the beginning of this third chapter is a dim light. Now this abhas is of two kinds, pratibimba and chaya. Pratibimba means reflection, chaya means shadow. When faith is like dim light, so previous verse I had mentioned that faith. So that faith is like a dim light, Shraddha Abhas. And based on that, there will be these two kinds of reflections. That Shraddha Abhas can be Pratibimb or Chaya. When faith is dim light, it is of these two kinds, reflection and shadow. Oh Lord, these are all manifested by your potency. Chaya Shraddha Abhas, Chaya Namabhas hoy, Sei Namabhas Jivera Shubha Prashvaya. From Chaya Shraddha Namabhas, the shadow of faith, comes Chaya Namabhas. I hope you're clear. There is that Shraddha. Within Shraddha, there is Abhas. That Shraddha is not pure. There is some dim reflection. It is dim, faint, it is faint. Abhas it is. And that Shraddha, which is of Abhas kind, has these two divisions, Chaya and Pratibimb. So there is Chaya Shraddha and there is Chaya Pratibimb. So based on these two, again there is Chaya Namabhas and Chaya Pratibimb. Chaya Shraddha Abhas, there is Chaya Namabhas. And there is like that same Pratibimba Namabhas. This kind of Namabhas brings auspiciousness to the individual souls. Now here I have put, this is a long discussion which I would not like to take now. Tomorrow, actually, I'll be discussing now. We are now entering into the most secret of the treasures of the holy name. And tomorrow I will go into more detail about this and I will explain this. So if you have any questions till now, what we have discussed, any questions, any clarifications? No questions? So we will stop here then, because now the discussion, once I continue, I don't want to stop it. So that's why I don't want to take the discussion between Shraddha, Chaya Namabhas and Pratibim Namabhas. I don't want to take this discussion. Tomorrow we will continue this discussion. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Harinama Chintamani ki jai, Hare Krishna. I will be sending the PPTs.